Yo, what's up, fam? Da bin ich wieder. Made another one. Let's get right into it. Gar keine Zeit verschwenden, Bro. Let me get this here cracking real quick. Eine Sekunde, geht sofort los. Let's
buy
go.
you off by claiming you're in their club, that you know they're going to get rid of you next phase as well. I mean, just from a Machiavellian position, this is dumb to make a deal with a bunch of psychotic killers that are so selfish they want to block off all this information from humanity and want to do this to their own species. So, to me, there's not even a debate. I've looked at every angle of this intellectually, historically, politically. Of course, my gut was right that I am abhorred by this, but I've analyzed it from their perspective, and it's a losing proposition for everybody. So our main job is exposing the breakaway civilization, what its aims are, what it's doing, how it's at war with the system that it's erasing, because it can be a challenging system to it. That's another thing. They want only one global government with a small manageable population because they fear real renaissance and innovation, and so they want a total scientific dictatorship. So you can say, well, why do they want to kill us all? Well, they're selfish. They don't want competition. I would decentralize all this and be completely honest about it and let people decide what they want to do. You want to be cyborgs? You want to do this? Okay, that's fine. But the Earth-based alliance, or whatever you want to call it, and the people voting, and folks the majority are going to want stuff away from us. This is, I mean, you want to play around with the antimatter? You want to all merge the machines? Fine. Go sign up. Go do it over there. But you're going to be honest about, and then the automator, well, they'll get more advanced. Let's invade and take over. I understand all that. I've already looked at every angle. But that's why the decision's been made to wipe out most of civilization, have a highly controlled technology, because you can't have these breakaway civilizations when there's more than one. And a lot of people are going, well, that makes sense then to kill everybody. Well, there's the argument right there. And it just doesn't feel right at a cellular level. And I am in connection, and all of you are. You need to face that with the advanced intelligence, electromagnetically, we all are. And God tells me, don't do this. So I'm going to go with God's plan. So there's a whole bunch of different projects and groups and governments and corporations. And just like with the UAV issue, you've got Dubai and a bunch of other Middle Eastern countries and China admitting they're using antennas on the ground to ionize nuclei in the atmosphere to form water droplets around the charged particles that then form clouds, that then form larger droplets, that forms rain. And they have weather control bureaus in a bunch of countries. But here they just treat us like we're ignorant savages and say, that doesn't exist. Well, what's this treaty? Well, what's this group? Well, what's this government funding? And they go, well, chemtrails don't exist. Well, that's not a technical term. So, yeah, that doesn't exist. But your high-altitude aerosol weather control geoengineering project does. And here's Bill Gates spending billions a year with the Department of Energy to do it. And a test to block out the sun. And they've done satellite tests with arrays to test it. I mean, it goes on and on. It's like when I would talk about, well, they're having a global government summit 15 years ago. People go, there's no such thing. They'd have New York Times articles. Jones is crazy, claims there's a thing called globalists, there's a thing called Bilderberg. And then meanwhile, they were having conferences at the WEF decades ago, the Global Governance Policy Forum. And, they had another one last year that Elon Musk was at. And, told them that their tyranny was coming down. So it's on the internet. Millions are watching. The world leaders are there talking about their global government and cashless society and how they're going to cut the carbon and make you live in your house most of the time. And your cell phone will tell you when you can leave, and robots will take over everything, and the future's not human. And I'm like, wow, they're planning this horrible anti-human future, and it's on television, but separately it doesn't exist. It's like human-animal cloning and human-animal splicing chimerics. And decades ago, they had salmon that grow twice as fast and are twice as large that are part insect. They put insect genes in them, and there's another salmon that has celery genes in it, and they just randomly gene edit and splice stuff and see what happens with the eggs that produce the fish and the embryos, and then they go, well, this one really works, but they're really mean and kill all the other salmon. But don't worry, they won't get in the ocean. And then 10 years ago, oh, they've escaped. Because they put fences up in the ocean and say, well, they're in here, they won't get out. Yeah, right. Then they get out and start replacing the normal salmon. I mean, that's just one example of we're not in Kansas anymore. We're not in the year 2024. We're in the year 2080. Just pick a number. Depending on the technology, it's way advanced in what you know. The future's here. It's just not evenly distributed. So we have giant weather control, terraforming, geoengineering projects, corporate, governmental going on. It's all hiding in plain view. This outgoing CIA director 9 years ago got up and did a whole 2-hour press conference on, yeah, we can control the weather, but we don't want the public to know because they'll get upset and they'll file lawsuits. Plus other governments will, get on our ass about it, but it's very promising. And you're like, but you're on C-SPAN at the CFR saying that. Well, they know that a small enough number will watch that, and they'll say, oh, that doesn't exist, while they announce it exists. So there's a psychological process to that, and that would take hours to get into, but it's beyond gaslighting. It's crime stop. It's double think that's in 1984, where two men can't have a baby. There's X and Y chromosomes. I mean, these professors of biology know that. They just get promoted, like Neil deGrasse Tyson, if they just keep saying a woman is as strong as a man, pound for pound. That's an absolute lie on its face. Totally studied in real science. But they're in the science of mind control and have authority figures telling you there's no weather control. There's no X and Y chromosomes, as Christ, as Bill Nye and them have been running around saying. You're like, that is really insulting, but it's training the public to accept nonsense and just making everything a joke. It's jamming real discussion. It's poisoning, pooping in the punch bowl. And then you reward the general public in the whole social credit score system that's already here with monetary success if they go against their own interest and believe a lie. So Crime Stop or doublethink is, for the last year and a half, Big Brother, the head of the Communist Party of the UK, in that fictional book before he died, he said was his projection of what England would be like by 1984 if it continued on the path it was on. And he would know. He was the number one propagandist for the British government in World War II at the BBC, creating the propaganda. And then he found out about their real plan to not beat Hitler, but just to get him out of the way to make something even worse. He wrote about this before he died, nonfiction. Look it up, his essays. Died real quick of that real fast overnight tuberculosis when he kept shooting his mouth off and saying, no, this is real, and started giving interviews and saying, no, I was the, and it's on record he was. I mean, he was the boss of brainwashing for the British government. I mean, he was in the top board meetings when you'd have literally a few dozen top globalists around a big round table, and then they would go to him as the director of the Ministry of Truth. So Winston Smith is him, but Winston's just mid-level in the book. Winston Smith is Eric Blair, the real name of George Orwell. And he's there destroying the truth at the Ministry of Truth. And then he actually knows Big Brother's bad, but he didn't know Big Brother wants to hurt everybody and actually slowly destroy humanity because it's so enjoyable for the upper party. That he thought he was in the inner party, but there was another inner party. And so Orwell said, no, this is basically my composite allegory of what I've experienced and what they're going to do by 1984 if we don't stop them. It flipped 1948 when the book was published. That's from him. That's how I know that. You can actually go read his essays if you like. I've read 4 or 5 big, huge compendiums of his essays and articles that are more important than 1984. Got them on my bookshelf or in storage somewhere. So, down and out in Paris and London, and just kill an elephant. I mean, it goes on and on. It's his whole life. But very interesting guy. But what I'm getting at here is we're already in the breakaway civilization. We are outside the real technology, the real government, the real system. And as it transfers our resources and technology that we develop to it, what does it do then? It pulls the rug out of the energy and the technology and the fertilizer and the food from us, claiming carbon's bad, which we are, and it collapses the old system when it's done with it, which is now happening, and absorbs it all into itself in a new city-state global model where everyone else is poor, that's allowed to even live, and lives at a neo-feudal agrarian level. Then you'll have in every little town a small technology office where if you behave properly and do what they say, you'll be able to have a little bit of access to it as the outer party members. Everybody else will have no access to it, be kept in total superstitious ignorance. And then you'll have the main city-state command bases. I mean, they wrote about this 100 years ago. Bertrand Russell, H.G. Wells, in their nonfiction political books. They were Fabian socialist, total elite controllers. There are other members of their party. There's footage, film footage of them in the 20s, 30s, and 40s when they first brought in audio saying, every year you'll be brought in and studied and tested by the party, and if you're not up to our standards, you will be executed. And then this is Bertrand Russell and others. And these are the people the left praises as liberal and empowering people. But see, to sabotage the real human organic civilization, 2 men can have a baby, poison the water, the food, culturally poison people, fracture everybody, divide and conquer everybody, to weaken us as you transfer power into the city-states that you read about in Brave New World and Zardoz and all the movies where they tell you what they're doing. Elysium. Hunger Games. And then they say in their main line, CFR, Trilateral Commission, WEF plans, that they're going to get global control, collapse all the nation states, create neo-feudalism, and then pick command bases, generally only 1 or 2 per region, that will be the high-tech centers. And those themselves will be their own prisons, but where the people they choose are allowed to come into it. Everybody else has to pay huge amounts of money to get into it, so most people can't even get into it. That will preclude you. And the places they're setting up are Kauai, Hawaii, Austin, Texas, obviously London, obviously Tel Aviv, Rome, Berlin, Brussels. But then they have sub-bases also off the middle of nowhere. You'll be locked down for your entire life to just a few hundred square miles if you're lucky. That's the 15-minute cities. This is all official. And I've been reading about it for decades and decades. And imagine reading globalist books that are published and written by world leaders, but not for general consumption. And of course, I started reading this stuff when I was like 10. My parents had the same books, and I'm like, this is way better than the comic books I'm reading. And then as I got older, I went to the library and got the more books and their statements, and I would see quotes in reports in books exposing them, and I would say, I want to see if David Rockefeller really said in 1976 in the New York Times, I want communism, Mao Zedong's the best, we need to take over America and collapse everything to rebuild the communist dream. So I went and read the article on the microfiche, the microfilm at the library. And a bunch of other, I would go the whole list, and the librarians at UT said they had the best one. When you go to UT, no, you're 16-year-old. Well, what do you want this stuff? Well, let us help you. We've got more stuff. Can you come back next week? It's called the stacks, and this is just a small part. We've got huge warehouses. You want more? I'm, yeah, well, sure, we'll bring that to you. We don't really ever see anybody want anything here. Everybody just goes against the cheat sheet books to act like that. I mean, literally. So, isn't it fascinating to learn about this whole breakaway civilization that's now very mature and advanced and is now collapsing everything else that you and I live in? Yeah, that's the article. So, back then, there was another one in 76 you wrote too. There's two of them. But back then, you had to go to the library. I couldn't just punch that up at the New York Times. So, I think you're like me. Imagine I'm 15, 16, 17, 18, just in between work and school and dating. It wasn't like I was just a bookworm, but I was staying up almost every night for hours. It's like it got more and more fascinating. And I'd say, surely this, was a monthly subscriber to the New American Magazine, John Birchers, and I would just say, is it really true that this guy said this in front of the Senate, and then I would go actually get the book they wrote, and I'd read in a book or an article, remember like a Tex Mars article, that a place in Bohemian Grove, and they do Druidic rituals and mock human sacrifices and all this, and the West German chancellor in his book, Men in Power's political retrospective, said they do their own Druidic rituals in Germany, but his favorite place to do them is there. And I went, I'm going to go. This is like right when I was going on air, like 94. I'm going to go, and I'm going to go to the library, and I'm going to see if I can get that Helmut Schmidt book. They didn't have Amazon back then, so you couldn't find it online. The internet for general public was in its infancy, certainly not for the government, around the 60s. And I went down to UT again. They go, we don't have it, but we'll order it for you. And the book came. And sure as hell, right there, he says, we do satanic rituals and we love them. Druidic rituals in his words. And I'm like, gosh, this is just incredible. It's just like everything these patriots tell me is true. And there's footage our folks got just this year of it. I was up there already covering that when Trump got shot. If you're a TV viewer, you can see that. So, here's the footage I shot. So, this is what's going on here. So, why wouldn't you want to know about this? About the real civilization, the advanced civilization you're living right next door to? And I use this analogy a lot because it's the best. I go to a gym almost every day. That Rogan for 12 years got set up and tried to get me to go to. I knew he was co-owner. They never really, that wasn't publicly known until he sold it. And I finally go there. It's great. And people all the time, hey, you're friends with Joe Rogan. You know him, man? Hey, Trump was in town last week, stuff like that. Wonder where Joe's at. Wonder, I hear he's around here sometimes. I'm like, oh, he's around here. And they don't even, obviously, I'm not giving a secret because they just don't even know. They're compartmentalized. It's not even something really compartmentalized. He's literally across the street. But see, that's a microcosm of compartmentalization. And I know Joe Rogan's 100 yards away and actually there, and I can go over and have coffee with him. They don't know. See, and that's what these national security acts and all of this is like, but a trillion times more intense. They take your resources, your time, your energy, and your native intelligence, because even though this is an advanced reservation, they'll admit in their own leaked papers that most of the new stuff they're getting is still leaking out of the general public and the great innovations we come up with. But now they think that AI is going to be way better than all this. They're openly saying, Yuval Noah Harari, all of them, that they don't need us anymore. And they don't want us anymore. And they've made the decision to get rid of us, and they're now hitting us with poison shots. So this is happening. This is going on. And there's all these people that pretend like they're in the power structure and pretend like they're serving the left and the globalist. You're following a self-destruct program. You think you're on the winning team. You're a loser. You are a sub-cog in a death cult program that is turning what's left of humanity into scrap metal. The decision's been made to wipe almost all of us out, and then you don't even know any of this. You don't want to know how this works. You think it's smart to make fun of people that know a lot more than you.
State.
And you're literally aiding and abetting your own destruction and my own destruction. You didn't get offers to go meet Henry Kissinger and work for the globalist. That's happened in front of John Harmon. That's the only case I'll talk about because they made it public. They didn't hide it. I have been offered at the time of the richest guy in the world, starting $50 million a year to sell out. And they said, you're about to get sued. You're about to be shut down. This is 8 years ago. It's 8 years ago now. If you don't do this. And I said, I can't. And I said, you're making a big mistake. You guys are going to destroy yourselves. You'll never get away with this. And now Elon Musk tells them that too. Because you're not going to get away with this. People are going to figure it out. And I'm not going to sit here and decide it's okay to just wipe everybody else out. And oh, I'm cool. I've been let in on the club. So to all of you serving the system, you're not in the club. If you know all this information and then you get on board with them and you show you can understand it all and that you're in with it, yeah, they'll kind of buy you off by claiming you're in their club, that you know they're going to get rid of you next phase as well. I mean, just from a Machiavellian position, this is dumb to make a deal with a bunch of psychotic killers that are so selfish they want to block off all this information from humanity and want to do this to their own species. So, to me, there's not even a debate. I've looked at every angle of this intellectually, historically, politically. Of course, my gut was right that I am abhorred by this, but I've analyzed it from their perspective, and it's a losing proposition for everybody. So our main job is exposing the breakaway civilization, what its aims are, what it's doing, how it's at war with the system that it's erasing, because it can be a challenging system to it. That's another thing. They want only one global government with a small manageable population because they fear real renaissance and innovation, and so they want a total scientific dictatorship. So you can say, well, why do they want to kill us all? Well, they're selfish. They don't want competition. I would decentralize all this and be completely honest about it and let people decide what they want to do. You want to be cyborgs? You want to do this? Okay, that's fine. But the Earth Base Alliance, or whatever you want to call it, and the people voting, and folks are the majority are going to want stuff away from us. This is, I mean, you want to play around with the antimatter? You want all merge the machines? Fine, go sign up, go do it over there. But you're going to be honest about, and then the automator, well, they'll get more advanced than us and invade and take over. I understand all that. I've already looked at every angle. But that's why the decision has been made to wipe out most of civilization, have a highly controlled technology, because you can't have these breakaway civilizations when there's more than one. And a lot of people are going, well, that makes sense then to kill everybody. Well, there's the argument right there. And it just doesn't feel right at a cellular level. And I am in connection, and all of you are. You need to face that with the advanced intelligence, electromagnetically, we all are. And God tells me, don't do this. So I'm going to go with God's plan. All right, look, I'm going to lay some really heavy stuff on you right now. So, history repeats, right? So, where are we right now? We have a competing global power blocks.
Listen to this shit, yo.
With the West way out ahead of China and Russia.
Listen.
When it comes to building a breakaway civilization that's transferred most of the technology into it, forbidden from the general public in the world, that has a anti-depopulation agenda.
Already built
that sees the rest of civilization as a competing force that wants to get total control over the planet so that no one else can oppose its dictatorship. That's why Obama and others call it the end of history. The end of history for us,
the
end of competition for us, not for this group. So if you look at all the ancient religions and histories all over the planet, in every recorded document, from the first they find to the latest, seeing the same stuff, And now what we see deployed acts and behaves just the same. You can say, well, they're just copying it. Okay, or they were given it. But what I see and what I receive is that this civilization is attempting to duplicate what has been done before, and that there have been previous advanced human civilizations that are breakaway.
Yep.
And that they did break away, and they did go interstellar and beyond, and that it was decided to keep a museum or a national park or a repository,
a zoo,
a depository, like a seed bank, like they have up in the Arctic. So there would always be an original operating Eden. Because obviously if you came from a planet and there's a history to that, there's a nostalgia, but there's also an importance, then you don't want to mess it up.
Nope.
You go out and you do the testing and the new dangerous stuff away from mommy, away from the old homestead. And then, now there's the ancient astronaut. Is that Peru? So, that's what's going on. And the sin is doing what we've done before here. We'll be right back. Stay with me. Please go to thealexjonestore.com. I am so glad this is back.
Yeah, buddy.
Optimal Human is the strongest, best superfood green drink you're going to find anywhere. One little scoop in water. The energy, the focus, the clarity.
Ich werde für euch in Zukunft die krassesten von krassesten der allerkrassesten Informationen geben. Also ihr habt gerade gehört, was ich hier euch präsentiert habe. Ich hoffe, ihr denkt ein bisschen darüber nach. Werdet euch bewusst über die ganzen Sachen, ne? Und vor allen Dingen, tell a friend, Bro, mach dich bereit. Weil die Shit ist hier. Es ist direkt schon hier. Wir sind im Dritten Weltkrieg. Wir sind im biologischen Krieg. Das, was die mit uns machen, in der Luft, im Fressen, im Wasser, ne? Das ganze System, das satanistische System, das alles ist Warfare auf unsere Seele, Bruder. Und das geht jetzt alles nur, guck mal, genau wie das Bild, was du hier gerade siehst du es wie so eine Pyramide hoch geht das, ne? Mir selber gerade aufgefallen. Wir spitzen uns immer mehr zum Obrigen. Wir gehen immer weiter hoch. Wir sind nicht mehr hier ganz unten. Wir sind nicht mehr die ganz Dummen. Oh, wir sind schon mittlerweile hier irgendwo. Wir kommen langsam hier irgendwo an. Ja? Es ist noch ein bisschen hoch hier zur Stufe, ne? Aber wir sind schon hier irgendwo. Und Bro, wenn du zu den Leuten willst, die hier oben, wo das Auge hier oben ist und du alles siehst, sozusagen dein Elohim, du mit deinem dritten Auge, das so weit mit deinem Higher Self verbunden bist, dass das dritte Auge dieses ganze System hier überwacht, weil wir kommen ja von hier, von ganz unten, vom Müll, Fußvolk, Bürger, Idioten, Lemminge, ne? Und dann haben wir uns weiter hoch. Jetzt sind wir ungefähr hier, Bruder. Es ist 5:12. Mach dein Auge auf. Subscribe, Bruder, mach den Daumen hoch, mach Dings, damit du weißt, wann ich on gehe, um diese Information zu erhalten. Und ich sehe dich beim